Well, Disney is cutting out a transgender storyline from a brand new show. It's Pixar's first animated original series called Win or Lose. The show revolves around a co-ed softball team, and one of the characters was going to be trans, voiced by a trans actor. Each member of the team was going to get their own featured episode. But here's where things got complicated. The character's episode with the storyline about gender identity has been pulled. Disney saying in a statement, quote, "When it comes to animated content for a younger audience, we recognize that many parents would prefer to discuss certain subjects with their children on their own terms and timeline." The actress voicing the character, Chanel Stewart, speaking to Deadline, revealing, quote, "My character would now be a cis girl, a straight cis girl." Lots to get to tonight. Let's bring in Rachel Nichols. She's an analyst for Fox Sports, and Pete Dominick, a comedian and host of Stand Up with Pete Dominick podcast. Good to see you both here. Pete, how do you feel about Disney's decision?
It's awful. I mean, it's terrible. I did my college internship at Disney World, actually, in 1994. I used to be a big Disney fan, and they used to be like on the forefront, progressive in terms of gay rights and welcoming benefits for gay employees and so on. But the idea that, I mean, let's not be let down by giant media companies or entertainment companies not being allies for marginalized communities, but to their shareholders, which is exactly what Disney is doing, you know, and the idea that they're giving this up to parents. I've been in the trenches and the school board fights over trans students. It is so horrible and ugly, and representation matters so much in our country, in our world, always, and to have a trans person represented in this way would be progress, but they are not going for it, and that's sad.
Well, Rachel, I mean, the show is a sports series. I understand it. In real life, there's a fierce debate, as Pete has talked about, over transgender athletes in particular. Is this decision by Disney a reflection of wanting to distance themselves from that topic in the zeitgeist?
I mean, look, Laura, there's a fierce debate because it makes good political hay. It's not really a large-scale issue or problem. That's kind of been the trick of all of this. Yes, there have been a couple very high-profile cases, but recently the head of the National College Athletic Association was testifying in front of the Senate, and he was asked, how many college athletes are there in the country? He said, a little over 500,000. How many transgender college athletes do you know of? He said less than 10. 500,000, less than 10. So what we are going to see in this animated series, and you can have your opinion about how this went down, we are going to see an animated kids series that doesn't address transgender children on sports teams because truly, largely, and again, with a couple high-profile exceptions, largely this just isn't the issue that a lot of politicians would like to pretend that it is.
Well, let's talk about another issue, and everyone's been talking about this today. Olympic gold medalist, soccer player Trinity Rodman criticizing her father, Dennis Rodman, on the Call Her Daddy podcast. Listen to what she said.
Even being young, it was like he partied all the time. He has this beach house in Newport or Huntington or whatever, wherever, and it was like we tried to live with him, but he's having parties 24/7. For me, emotionally, he's put me through, like, oh my gosh, like, even just him not talking to me for months and months, and then he randomly calls and he's like, hey, like, I'm thinking of doing a TV show, reality TV show. You want to join? I'm just like, whoa. So, like, that's the part where I have so much anger towards it of, like, why have I been so nice about someone who's so selfish?
This woman's a phenomenal athlete, by the way. I've seen her live, and she is incredible. But are you surprised that she opened up this way, Rachel?
I was actually pretty thrilled because publicly what we've heard from her prior to this was sort of a couple nice Instagram posts about a dad that I know from covering basketball was an absentee father for her. He didn't pay child support for chunks of her childhood. She and her mother lived in a car at one point. She really struggled emotionally through having this relationship with an absentee, alcoholic, distant father. And she has publicly tried to put a good face on it. And it was refreshing, frankly, to hear from her saying, look, it's not what it looks like. I was angry when he showed up at the game that you saw a photo of maybe a few years ago. I was crying on the field because he took away this big moment of mine by showing and making it about him. So I think for a lot of young girls, and especially we've got more and more children of professional athletes now in professional sports themselves, being open and honest about these relationships, it's important because it's what other people are going through too.
Pete, how do you feel? You've got two beautiful girls, and I know you're very close to your daughters. How do you feel hearing about how she was affected?
I saw that clip, and I'm a huge fan of Trinity and the women's soccer team since they won in 1999. She's one of the most exciting players in a generation. Watching her play soccer is awesome. She's an awesome role model. And, you know, thinking about my primary role, and has been for 20 years, is being a present, as good a dad as I can be. But, you know, I suppose if I had the opportunity to make friends with Kim Jong-un, one of the worst leaders in the world, which is what Dennis Rodman was busy doing instead of spending time with his daughter, maybe I'd take that. It's sad. It's sad that any man out there doesn't take the opportunity to be present in his kid's life. We're never going to be perfect, but that's the best thing you can do. And Trinity Rodman, you know, is a role model for other young women in sports for a lot of reasons, but none of us have perfect parents, and sometimes they're not even present. And her mom was the main role model in her life, and really strong. She gives a lot of credit to her, but I really think that her coming out and saying this lets other young girls and boys say, listen, even though my dad or mom wasn't around, I too can be a gold medalist.
You know, it's incredible to have this level of access to the personal life of people who you see in every day, and you realize, of course, they're full human beings. The last question I have for both of you, Rachel, former
That's how
NFL...
I feel about you, Laura.
Well, let's not argue about it. I agree. I'm kidding. Former NFL quarterback, though, Michael Vick, he's now going to be the head coach at his hometown school, Norfolk State University. He, of course, has had quite the career following the criminal issues that he was facing for dogfighting. But this is a very special moment for him to return home, isn't it, Rachel?
It's an amazing story. This is the NFL Comeback Player of the Year after he got out of prison. Certainly has made great strides on the field, but certainly off the field in terms of restitution for the things he's done wrong. Not only is he going to be a fun coach, he certainly knows about football, he's going to be a great role model for these young men trying to make their way into becoming young adults and dealing with all the pressures of fame and stardom that we saw he handled, sometimes not the way you'd want him to, but the way that he learned from and now can pass on.
Yeah.
I'm excited to watch him as a coach, frankly, and see what that's like. And shout out to Norfolk State for giving us yet another high-profile coach and a black one at that. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Rachel Nichols, Pete Dominick, thank you so much. Thank you all for watching. Anderson Cooper 360 is next.